My name is Erica Trim. This week's reading and annotated bibliographies reviewed the topic of self-directed learning. John Sanders has written an AMEE guide for use of reflection in relation to self-directed learning, specifically for medical education. This guide aims to provide a base of information on reflection while advising how to implement reflection in undergraduate, postgraduate, and continuing medical education. The author of this guide defines reflection as a metacognitive process that occurs before, during, and after situations with the purpose of developing greater understanding of both the self and the situation, so that future encounters with the situation are informed from previous encounters. This may sound familiar as it ties in closely with last week's readings on reflection. Reflection is an essential part of self-directed learning. We can even bring this back to our first week of class learning about the master of adult learning, Malcolm Knowles. In 1975, he published the book titled Self-Directed Learning, a guide for learners and teachers. Malcolm Knowles defined self-directed learning as a process in which individuals take the initiative, with or without the help of others, in diagnosing their learning needs, formulating learning goals, identifying human and material resources for learning, choosing and implementing appropriate learning strategies, and evaluating learning outcomes. Both reflection and self-directed learning emphasize that we are lifelong learners. Noticing is a stage of reflection that can occur before, during, or after an experience. This is usually triggered by an emotional reaction to a situation and triggers self-directed learning by reflection. An example of noticing could be when a practitioner first advises a patient of a cancer diagnosis. This can be emotional for the practitioner and the patient. Reflecting on this encounter may lead the practitioner to research best practices for delivering difficult medical diagnoses. This then influences any subsequent encounters of similar emotional weight. Before, during, or after an experience, a self-directed learner must reflect on the experience to make sense of it and develop an understanding. This creates a mental model, or personal theory. This personal theory can be challenged when a situation is subsequently encountered, which can change the original beliefs or assumptions. For example, a student performs a skill for the first time, let's say suturing a wound. The patient returns to the office and the wound looks beautiful. That student may reflect and say, "I did a good job. I'll do this the same way next time." A subsequent patient requires suturing and the student performs the same skill, but the patient has a wound complication. The student will reflect on the prior beliefs and adjust to perform better in any subsequent encounter. Another step of reflection involves applying the new values. Reflection becomes an ongoing process. Self-directed learners are lifelong learners where skills and values can be practiced in all subsequent encounters of similar nature. This provides opportunities for deeper understanding and continued growth. To review, reflection can be a useful tool when practicing self-directed learning, particularly in the setting of medical education. Reflection involves a series of steps. It begins with an experience that leads to reflection, which leads to an attempt to make sense of the experience and reactions to the experience. And finally, applying new knowledge and skills for future experiences. Here are my references for any additional information that you may wish to read. Thank you for your time today.